Week 7, Lions won this one 31-29. Everything was close. Also, the completion percentage, one of the highest completion percentage games in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, for the two
Not
guys
that
combined.
many incompletions.
Correct.
Who needs the number 1 seed more?
Well, Brew, I think you'd agree the winner of this game for the conference is in the driver's seat. There's no question about it. They're in charge. They're running everything. It all goes through them. Like, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And
That's not bad.
unequivocally, the Lions need it more.
Oh. Why?
Because there will be... The Vikings have been operating all year like, look at us. Not happy to be here. That's insulting. But they
in that neighborhood,
in the general vicinity. The Lions have literally been the 1 seed since that matchup. Since that Week 7 matchup, they have been the 1 seed after every single week of football. The Lions have been the 1 seed. They have been operating like this is what's going to happen.
This is our year.
And so there is almost a disappointment. For even up to 2 weeks ago, the Vikings were, because you can bet on this type of thing, like 9-1 to be the 1 seed. Because the Eagles had a better chance, and obviously the Lions had the best chance. So there will be a legitimate vibes or energy deflation for Detroit. But the other reason is this. I think right now, Minnesota is the more complete team, so Detroit needs the cleaner path and the time off. Minnesota, if we show you their numbers for the season, they are, one of the very best teams in the league. So scoring, not great, but good. Yards, great. Opponent scoring, great.
Yeah.
Great run defense. Excellent at takeaways, excellent stopping third downs. And the Lions, and I know you tried to put a nice coat of paint on it yesterday, comparing it to the Chiefs' offensive struggles. But the Lions, at no point this season, and certainly not at the end of the year, were the Chiefs the worst offense in football. They just weren't explosive from scoring a bunch of points, but the offense for the Chiefs has been anywhere from middling to where it is right now, which is quite good. The Lions, on the other hand, over the last month, if this was their defensive numbers the past month, would be the worst defense in football.
They're not great.
And so I think, Brew, it's a no-brainer that Detroit needs the 1 seed more. If Detroit doesn't get the 1 seed, I'll tell you right now, I'll be picking them to lose in the wild card round.
Because, wild card round.
Yeah, I think
either the Rams or the Buccaneers.
Well, a Bucs team who beat them already.
The Falcons.
Well, let me revise it. If it's the Falcons, I'll be picking the Lions.
That's right.
But the Bucs beat them, and the Rams play them to overtime, and then in the playoffs last year it was a 1-point game, and it would be on the road as opposed to in their building.
You make some decent points, obviously the defense, but look, the home field is not some great elixir for that defense either.
No.
And I don't think we know it's been that bad recently, but overall I don't think it's the worst defense in the league. I'm going the other way, though.
Wow.
I'm going with Minnesota for a few reasons. One, I do still, even with this defense, I thought Wiles made a good point yesterday, they're still winning games. I still think Detroit is the better team. But beyond that, Detroit, Nick, is undefeated on the road.
Yep.
Undefeated on the road, 8-0, and they beat Minnesota, Green Bay, Houston, and San Francisco, which is still a talented team, all on the road. And here's the thing. These are the last, I think, 10 teams that have gone undefeated on the road. Last one was the Chiefs in 2020. All but the Cowboys, of course. And then one of the Niners teams, everyone else reached the Super Bowl. They didn't necessarily win it, but they all reached the Super Bowl. All right, so I get you'd rather be at home always, but the fact when you are so good on the road, this speaks to you're just a superior team. And so I think that's a big thing.
I like this graphic a lot.
My biggest thing is this, though, Nick. My biggest thing is this. The Lions have a seasoned quarterback who has already played in a Super Bowl, has played in 9 playoff games, is 2-2 on the road in playoff games, has faced the great Bill Belichick in the playoffs, in the Super Bowl for that matter. Sam Darnold is making his first playoff start. So I think he needs to be at home for that playoff start. I shouldn't say need, but it would be better for him, much better if he's at home
Right.
in comfortable confines.
Okay, so I see what you're saying.
So I
Okay, well, let's talk about this because I don't want to go off track too much with regards to kind of Sam Darnold. But listen, we're still just having the wrong conversations about the Detroit Lions. Like Nick trying to be like, if they don't get the number 1 seed, that the Lions are just going to be completely deflated and that it's going to be this energy suck. Like that they haven't been this insanely resilient, ferocious, just intensity from the feet up, popping out. I mean, the idea that if they don't get the 1 seed, that this is somehow like the Lions are going to be like, oh, what do we do? Like they're all going to be looking at each other in the locker room and sulking, and they're going to be like, man, we let this year get away from us. Is kind of bonkers to me. And that and if they lose this game, I can understand if you said if the Vikings roll the Lions. If you're like, dude, if the Vikings just dominate the Lions, then I'm picking the Lions to lose against the Rams and the Bucks. Like conceptually, I could understand that. But if you're just saying a loss, that they automatically now are going to lose to the Bucks and the Rams, like that's insanity to me. That's insanity to me, truly. What have the Rams and the Bucks done to prove? And you're like, oh, well, went to overtime and this, that. I do not care what happened in week 1, and I do not care what happened in like week 3 or 4 or whatever. Like, just stop. Stop using earlier season as a reference point in that regard. It means nothing. It really doesn't mean anything. There's some validity if it was like a divisional game and it was multiple games and you got to see multiple games to kind of see like how these teams matched up. But like you're going to use a Rams week 1 game as a reference point? What? It makes no sense. It honestly actually really makes no sense. I don't even know how much the coaching staff will even really look at that film and really be like, hey, this is what we can do. Like, I'm not even so sure that they're even going to use that so much because these teams have changed so much as the weeks have gone on. And that Lions-Bucks game, the Lions just played bad. Straight up. The Lions got off to a slow start. That is very obvious when you see this, how the season has unfolded. What that offense looks like today is not at all what it looked like against the Rams and the Bucks. And even against like the Cardinals. If memory serves me correctly. That was like a 21-14 game or something like that. Because I kept waiting for the Lions to look like what they look like now. I kept waiting and being like, I'm waiting. They got off to a significantly slower start. So I just don't care what happened earlier on in the season. And I'll be honest, even this doesn't really mean a whole lot to me. Because when you're talking about things that happened in the 80s and the 70s, it's like, it's like, okay, whatever. I mean, it's not terrible data. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is 100% irrelevant, but like, doesn't move anything to me. I'm not like, oh, I'm having question marks about the Lions, but now I see that they're undefeated. Like, well, look at all these teams that have made it to the Super Bowl. That means they're going to, like, that doesn't mean that much. But I do think it's a sign of how great of a team you are. I do believe that. It's hard for me to remember exactly what the 2014 Cowboys looked like and what the 1990 49ers looked like. Heck, it's kind of hard for me to remember, obviously the 07 Patriots. And the 2016 Patriots. Was that the Falcons year? I forget, honestly. I don't even remember. So hard. Or was that against the Seahawks? But yeah. I just think that the Lions, listen, I've said this so many times. Their defense is obviously not what it was. Okay? And I get that. But this idea where, and this is what it makes no sense, because Nick was saying, oh, whoever wins this game, they're clearly in the driver's seat of the NFC. And he was like kind of laughing with Brew about it because they must have made some sort of joke off screen or something. But he was still saying, like, obviously you have the number 1 seed and your home field advantage. Everything goes through you. But so if they beat the Vikings, that means that they can win it all, get to the Super Bowl. I mean, he doesn't think anyone can win it all except for the Chiefs. So, so they can get to the Super Bowl. But if they lose to the Vikings in another tough, gritty game, then it's just all over for them. I just don't see that. In terms of who needs the 1 seed more, the truth is, I really don't think either of these teams need the 1 seed more. I really do think it's a toss-up. But if you're going to force me to answer, I would say that I do think the Vikings would need it more, just because I think the Lions are most recently battle-tested in the playoffs because of their deep playoff run just last year. And so you do have Sam Darnold, who I understand it's his first playoff start. I'm not as concerned about that. But yeah, things are going to be easier and more supportive at home. That is a real thing. And I think they have enough players on that team that would be better served to be at home. I do think that that's totally fair to say about the Vikings. But also, honestly, if the Vikings drop down to the 5 seed, I'm not suddenly going to doubt them either. It's just not the way how my mind works. But if you're really forced to answer this question straight on, I would say that the Vikings need the 1 seed more because of specifically what the Lions have done just last season, what we've seen them do on the road, what we've seen them do against all the various teams that they had to face last year, and the way how they got their victories. So I'm less concerned about that. Not to mention the Lions. They are such a physical team. They can, they have such a great O-line and can run that I believe that travels fantastically on the road. And so I think they'll be able to continue to do that on the road. And it's so funny how you had this Lions team. It's kind of poetic justice, I suppose, or not really justice, poetic nonsense. You had the Lions season unfold this season. And people were so reluctant and delayed to give them credit, to say that they're this top team, that they're the top team, when they clearly were. And people were still going to put the Chiefs or the Ravens or the Bills, whatever. And it was like, dude, the Lions are obviously beasts. They're beast. And then when you finally had to, because it was like, well, now you just look crazy to not put them there. They're there. And then the moment they face some adversity and have some injuries, everyone wants to just so quickly jump off. And again, that's why I kind of keep highlighting. It makes sense to have concerns, to have some fears and angst about this team. But it's, to me, the problem is always the degree of confidence. Like Nick saying, I'm telling you right here, if the Lions don't have the number 1 seed, they're losing the first round. I'm picking the Bucks and the Rams. And it's like the conviction of that. Like, what? Like where do you get off with that level of conviction? Like, nope, I'm picking the other teams. And it's like, okay, fine. Oh, because the LA Rams are known to have just the most dominant home field advantage in the NFL. Like, what? Like, no. A Buccaneers road game, the weather should be beautiful, or essentially a non-factor. Not going to affect Goff. Everyone likes to always talk about that the Lions, and specifically Goff, they need to be like indoors, nice, perfect weather. I mean, to my knowledge, Tampa Bay should pretty much that, most likely. So it's just like, I don't get the concern. I could understand if the Lions had to like go to, Kansas City on the road, freezing cold, a snowstorm against the Bills. Like, yeah, that could make sense to me. Then I could say, oh, yeah, you drop down, and that's who you have to play on the road in the playoffs. That's really tough. Then, I can get it. And again, it's not to say that the Lions, are just going to roll the Bucks or roll the Rams or anything like that. Like, it's not to say that. I think all these playoff games should, in theory, be, pretty fun, pretty physical, pretty close. But it's just that conviction that the Lions are just falling off a cliff. Says who? Based on what? Based on the prediction? Based on a week 1 matchup like that's what we're going off of now? No. Wholeheartedly disagree. Those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Detroit Lions? Who do you think needs the 1 seed more? And what do you think about the Detroit Lions that if they don't have the 1 seed, I guess they're done? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We're building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help with the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.